Okay, so we'll get started. But before we start the webinar content, we would like to firstly acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands from which we are broadcasting today. I'm broadcasting from the land of the Widjabul-Waibul people of the Bundjalung Nation. We pay our respects to the elders of the land, both past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people attending today's webinar or watching the recording. Welcome to this Legal Aid New South Wales and Law for Community Worker webinar, The Difference Between Retirement Villages and Aged Care. My name is Bridget Barker and I work in the Community Legal Education branch at Legal Aid New South Wales. The session will be an hour in total, including time for questions and answers at the end. After the webinar, you'll receive an evaluation survey, and we do really value the feedback that we receive and we take it into account in our future planning. You'll also receive an email a day after the webinar with any links to resources that we talk about in the webinar today. So just before I hand over to your presenter, Nalika, from the Seniors' Rights Service, we're going to run a quick poll. And you can answer by clicking on your screen. I'll just launch the poll now. So the first question is, do you already know something about retirement villages? And the options are yes, no, I'm planning to move into a retirement village, or I already live in a retirement village. And that's the first question. The second is, do you already know something about aged care? And the same answer options, yes, no, I live in aged care or I'm planning to move into aged care. So it looks like there's a little bit of knowledge about retirement villages, a bit more about aged care. So hopefully by the end of the webinar today, you'll know everything. I'll just share those results so that you can, well, maybe not everything, right, but so that you can, you'll be better informed. Yeah, so looks like 58% don't have any knowledge about aged care and 85% about retirement villages. So it's good that you've joined us today. Okay, so I'll hand over now to your presenter, Nalika, from Seniors' Rights Service.
Thank you,
welcome,
Bridget.
Nalika.
And thank you, and welcome to you all. I am also joining from Darugland of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respect to their elders past and present. So, and also prior to doing the presentation, I need to remind you of the disclaimer. So this is information only, by no way it's legal advice, because the information might impact on you differently. Your case by case basis, you must seek independent legal advice if any issues arises. And we have taken every precautions to include the current legislation. So I am using both New South Wales and national legislation information in this presentation. Thank you. So this slide, because we are talking about retirement villages and aged care, which is, quite complicated two areas, but, this is just to give an idea on other accommodation options available around New South Wales. And these accommodation options are based on state law applies. So this is just to give you an idea what are the other options available in New South Wales. Right. So I will going into the presentation, and I'll talk to you about where I work and what our service provides at the end. So first, let's start the retirement villages. So retirement villages governs under the Retirement Villages Act 1995. So according to the definition, it is a predominantly a premises occupied by retired people who have entered into a village contract with the operator of the complex. So according to this definition, so the main things are the people has to be retired people, and they must enter into a contract. And retirement villages are independent living. And as you can see, the important factors are there must be retired person, and they have to have a contract with the operator. So let's look at the what is the, who is the retired person, and what are the contracts. Okay. So according to the retired person definition, so there is a age limit described there. So the person who wants to move into a retirement village, they have to be over 55, or they have to retire from the full-time work. So therefore, so there is no requirement for people not work. You can continue to work because, age limit is 55 or over. Let's look at the contract. So this is itself, the contract itself, it's a webinar on its own. So I try to explain, as simply as I can. So the person has to be entered into a retirement village contract with the operator. So there is a standard contract. And then once you enter into a retirement village contract, the resident get the residence right. So once you have the residence right, you have a tenant protection under the Retirement Villages Act. So there are different types, even though there is a standard contract, there are different types of contracts, as you can see. So it can be a long-term lease, short-term lease. Strata is also a complex. Strata complex can be a retirement village because they can enter, the owners corporation can enter into a service provision management agreement. There are some company title retirement villages around New South Wales, and community title. So all these, the community title and the strata also comes under the strata law. And then license agreement. And there are some residential tenancy agreements can be a retirement village contract too. So these different contracts also, then the complication arises, like sometimes people have capital gain entitlement or no capital gain entitlement. So there are different, you need to understand there are different types of contracts, and you must seek legal advice if someone enter into a retirement village. And this is not a simple conveyancing transaction. Next slide. So as I said, when you enter into a retirement village contract, the resident get the tenant protection. So it is independent living. You decide your own form of contracts that you entered in, and also the services and facilities. Different villages provide different services and facilities. So accordingly, the contractual terms can vary, and the operator can be an individual business. They can be an individual developer, sometimes not-for-profit organizations. It can be a company. So there are, varying operators around New South Wales. At the moment, It's about over 600 retirement villages around New South Wales and over 66,000 residents living in these retirement villages. And the operators can be, some operators are from, operating from other states, but they are governed under the New South Wales law. And so the main point in relation to retirement villages is that it gets the tenant protection. So this is the most important aspect under the Retirement Villages Act. What's that mean? The operator cannot just issuing a termination notice, cannot terminate a retirement village contract. They have to seek an order from the tribunal to terminate a retirement village contract. Okay. So now I'll talk to you about aged care. So the aged care is a national legislation, the federal legislation under the Aged Care Act 1997. It's a Commonwealth legislation. This legislation has significant amendments since it became law. As we all know, the government strategy is to support people to live in their home as long as they can independently. So aged care is the support that provided to older people who need help in their home, or if they are unable to live in their own home, so then, providing the accommodation. So either live in their own home or who can no longer live at home. So this is the aged care support. So it can include help with everyday living, assistance with equipments and home care modifications, personal care and health care, and then the full-time accommodation. And aged care also help you to stay connected with the community, be more independent, take care of your health and safety, meet your cultural and social needs. So the Act, therefore, set out the rules for funding. It provides the regulation, approval of providers, how they approve the providers, and then what are the subsidies and fees, what are the service standards, quality of care, rights of people receiving care, and what are the consequences for non-compliance. So the legislation covers all these aspects. So, and also the aged care can be care in your home. In-home care providers, it supports to help stay independent as long as possible through personal care, transport, food preparation, shopping, housework, physio and therapy, social activities, modification to your home. So this is the care in your home. This support can be through Commonwealth Home Support Program or home care packages. And probably most of you may know home care packages are more complex needs, and it is categorized as level 1 to 4. And then the residential care. This is for people who can no longer live at home and needing ongoing help with everyday tasks or health care. The aged care homes provide 24-hour care with access to nursing and general health care services. Residential care can be short-term or permanent. The short-term care means to improve well-being or get back on your feet if you had a hospital stay, or it's called after hospital or transition care. This support can be up to 12 weeks. Alternatively, short-term restorative care support can be up to 8 weeks. This is to improve the well-being and independence of the person. So people can receive the short-term services in your own home or in an aged care home or in the community as well. And I told you, like, people can receive services to live in their own home as long as they can. So these services can be accessed while you are living in a retirement village, because it's independent living. People will be provided the services to live as long as they can. Next slide. So who is eligible for aged care? So if you are over 65 and or older and need helping with your things as you used to do in your life, or for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander persons, it's over 50 years of age. So what you need to do is you need to start with My Aged Care. So you need to register with My Aged Care. It takes you, once you register, it takes you through the steps, what you need to do. Before a person can access government-funded services, they must have My Aged Care assessment to ensure they receive the most relevant care and support. So that's where the assessment comes in. So you register with My Aged Care, have an assessment, and then you understand what sort of services that you require. So accordingly, it will be allocated. But as you know, the registering with My Aged Care is a national queue. So there will be a waiting list as well. So if anyone having issues with navigating through My Aged Care, so there is a service called Care Finder. This used to call Navigator program. So they can assist the person to work through the system. So you can access, I will explain later that our organization also has Care Finders, and also there are other organizations with Care Finder program. So they can assist anyone who wants to go through My Aged Care to go through that steps and how to register and get the assessment done, etc., etc. So the cost of aged care, Services New South Wales, used to call Centrelink, set the minimum amount. This is the government sets the minimum amount of daily care fee and the accommodation cost. So the government sets the price. They also set the yearly and lifetime cap. There is a yearly and lifetime cap for each services, and that based on income and income and assets test. If the care provider want to increase the fees or the charges, the new fees for the extra services, then it's based on the better accommodation or better food. They must get the approval from the Independent Health and Aging Care Pricing Authority. So that's how you can increase that the amount. But sometimes some people can afford these services. So if you can afford, you are expected to pay more for the cost of aged care. If you are not eligible for fund or waiting for the care, because sometimes it's availability based. So if you are registered with My Aged Care but waiting for funded services to become available, you can access privately funded services at any time. Then the privately funded services mean that you need to pay the full cost yourself. The common questions in relation to the cost is that, do I need to sell my home to pay for aged care? So typically people think either the government or the care facility asks to sell the family home. This is a myth. Whether you can choose to keep or sell the home is your decision, individual decision. However, you must seek independent financial advice and legal advice when making those decisions, because as I mentioned, the cost of care is based on income and asset test, and that assessment, its impact on how much you need to pay and what's that cost involved. Next. So once you register, so when you are moving into aged care, this is the permanent care accommodation. So then you enter into a contract with the care, the aged care home. So commonly it's called permanent resident agreement. Sometimes it's depending on the facility. The name could vary, but it is the aged care permanent agreement. This is where the older person can no longer live at home and needs ongoing help with the everyday tasks and health care. So government funded a range of aged care homes across Australia. As I said, each aged care home is different. So it is important to choose the right one for the individuals. So this is, again, it's availability based as well. So so when you are entering into a contract, you must seek legal advice because there are various implications, sometimes like third-party guarantee clauses. So therefore, must seek independent legal advice. I'll explain later. Again, our organization can provide the initial basic advice as well. Right, next. Next slide. Okay. Right, security of tenure. So the Aged Care Act provides for user rights principles. The minister has the power to make user rights under Section 96 of the Act, where when you see answers, the principle will be the straight point. Like if there's any issues that arises under the Aged Care Act or the contract, the first we need to look at the aged care user right principles. So quite often the answers will be through that, like going through those user right principles. Regardless of what is in the contract, the principle provides that the provider can only demand a resident leave if the aged care facility is leaving, because the contract provides the security of tenure. So only that the facility can ask the aged care resident to leave the facility if the aged care facility is closing, if the aged care facility no longer provides care and accommodation relevant to that particular resident's long-term care need, or the aged care facility has no agreed to provide the care that that individual required, and the residents no longer need the care, the level of care that they needs from the facility. And also the resident has not paid the aged care fees within 42 days after the day it was due, and when such payment is residents' control, because that's a breach of the contract as well. And then the other aspect is the residence has intentionally caused serious damage to the facility or serious injury to another resident or a staff member. The resident is away from the aged care facility for more than 7 days for a reason not permitted under the Act. So these are the only factors that can impact on the security of tenure. So the people can also move within aged care facilities. So this is called transfer between facilities. The principal also provide that the resident moving within aged care facilities that if the resident requests that they wish to move from one residential care facility to another, or the care facility proposed and then the resident agreed, the resident place in the aged care facility become extra service place, and the resident cannot or will not pay the extra services fee. Or maybe it could be due to a repair or improvement need to be done. So then the resident can later on return back to their chosen care facility. So there are options available for the people to move from aged care facility within, it's called transfer between facilities. So I think. So, I mean, this is basically like, I was trying to explain the differences. So the aged care facility is government funded service. And then the retirement village is independent living. So individuals making the choices, but both has contracts, but then retirement villages under the state law, there are different types of contracts. You need to understand what are the obligations, rights under those individual contracts. And aged care facilities more controlled by the government-funded services and government-funded subsidies and the care services that required for the people. So quite often we all get very confused when we talk about the aged care. People always refer to the retirement villages, but it's completely different services, completely different legal implications. And so this needs to be understood, like, get the proper service, proper legal advice before you enter into the contractual arrangements. So I am from Seniors Rights Service. And so our organization is statewide specialist service that provide legal advice and assistance to people in New South Wales. We are a community legal center. We get the funding from the legal assistance program from the government, both levels of governments, and aged care advocacy service dedicated to provide protecting the advancement of the rights of older people, particularly vulnerable and disadvantaged groups. And so we have our service is free and confidential because it's statewide service. Therefore, mainly the telephone advice service and aged care advocacy and support of legal advice. And we do also provide the rights-based education forums. Next slide. So we are free and confidential service, the aged care advocacy service, and a legal service, and also rights-based education forums we provide across New South Wales. So the aged care advocacy services, as I explained, so there is a network of, this is part of the National Aged Care Advocacy Service. So we have aged care advocacy service around New South Wales. And also there are a number of regional centers based advocacy service care navigator program that's called now care finder program. We also have financial advocates who will be able to provide a detailed information around how the cost calculation, what's the asset and income testing. So they will be able to provide the more number questions and explain more clearly. So we do have several financial advocates who will be able to go through the contracts if somebody has any further questions in relation to fees and charges of the aged care facilities. And aged care advocates will be able to support, answer any questions, and go through with the individuals to resolve any issues in relation to their aged care services, any concerns in relation to receiving that services and service provision. So that's where you need to contact the service in relation to aged care advocacy. So our legal service, I think next slide. So our legal service is again a small team, but our service advise and assistant on many general legal issues. But we don't actually do compensation, personal injury, or property settlement matters, and also the immigration. So other than that, if anyone over 65 who has a question in relation to any legal issues, you can contact our service and get the advice. And also we do have a specialist retirement village legal service, strata living legal service. And also we have a solicitor who works on domestic and family violence. So we provide the basic advice, and if someone need further assistance based on the assessment on success and what steps they need to take in future further steps, we will be providing that service as well. So in relation to all the legal services, we again provide the information session and education in retirement villages, in strata complexes, in the community. So you can contact our service in relation to seeking advice or further information in relation to understanding the questions or whatever the questions you have. So I already explained the advocacy service. It's aimed to promote the rights of older people in aged care provision. Advocates can assist older people in their families or in raising concerns with your service provider. So we have about 15 advocates across New South Wales, so the regional centres. We have very number of advocates based in rural and regional centres. So you will be able to access someone near you. And so we are part of the our centre. We are part of the New South Wales Community Legal Centres network. There are about 40 community legal centres around New South Wales. We are one of the specialist service. Some of the legal centres are locally based. Some are, statewide, and a particular topic area specializes in. So our service is, particularly for older people, seniors' rights. And likewise, there is another legal center for welfare rights, which is in relation to Centrelink issues, and financial rights, if any financial issues, IAC in Immigration and Advice Rights Service. So likewise, there are specialist services as well. So reach out to the community legal centers for free legal advice and assistance. Likewise, the legal aid and community legal centers are working in collaboration with, on a number of topics. And this is one of the collaborations. And this is our Seniors Rights Service contact details. I'm happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you, Nalika, for that presentation. We do have a question. The person asked, you referred to a longer than 7-day absence not being permitted in aged care. And the person asks, what absences longer than 7 days are allowed under the law when it comes to security of tenure in aged care?
Well, well, you need to actually discuss with the facility in relation to, sometimes people might need to go to the hospital. So is that the question you're asking? Like, what are the risks?
What absences longer than 7 days are permitted?
Well, it's depending on the facility and the person's requirements at the time. If someone needs to go to the hospital, that's something, could be like, longer than 7 days. So that could not be a reason for the facility to terminate the contract. So it depends on the circumstances. Please, get in touch with the organization so we can look at and provide the advice at the time.
I wondered too, what if a family, so obviously you go into aged care because you can no longer continue to live independently. What if family wanted to take you on a holiday and they were going to care for you during that time? Could you negotiate that sort of an absence as well if it were going to be, might be 2 weeks or
Yeah,
so,
it's
or
depending
longer?
on the circumstances. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like if the person is no longer be able to, I mean, like someone moving into an aged care facility is that person needs ongoing support, ongoing needs, and healthcare. And also this is national care service. So it's depending on what the circumstances are, because there will be like more people waiting as well. So it's depending on individual case by case basis that decision needs to be made. So get the legal advice and get the assistance from the aged care advocates and negotiate the circumstances.
Thank you. Nalika, there's another question. Rachel asks, how long does the assessment and then implementation of a home care package take?
Oh, that's beyond my control. It's all depending on my aged care, and because I know there is a longer waiting period. So this is more like a aged care advocates question. So, but it depends on the service availability. I know there is a longer waiting period. So what we advise quite often when we go to our education session, that you register as quickly as possible with My Aged Care, because there is a longer queue to have the assessment done.
Yeah, I know from experience when my mother was having that assessment done that I think there was a 6-week wait until somebody could go and do the assessment.
Yeah.
And then once they do the assessment, then you have to wait till there's
Services available.
services available. Yeah. And I guess that varies from place to place across the state. So I suppose that message about as soon as you think that it's going to be need, registering is important, because there can be some delay, and the older person might need some other assistance in the meantime while they're waiting for that. I just wanted to clarify something. The income and assets assessment that happens, is that done by Services Australia, which we used to call Centrelink?
Yes.
Okay. And do they have a calculator on their website that you can put your information in? You may not know this, but
I think they do have something there, but our financial advocates, they will be able to actually do that calculations and roughly work around what it is. I think there is a calculator.
So people could get a rough idea, possibly on the website.
Possibly, yes.
And then contact to get support from a financial
and also
advocate.
in the retirement villages, because I've explained that it is state-based, the Office of Fair Trading, like now Services New South Wales, is the regulator. So on Office of New South Wales, Office of Fair Trading has a calculator as well to calculate the retirement village cost. You can do a comparison as well, with some other facilities, but it is only a rough guide, because the fees that's independent. Like you individually make the choices in relation to what retirement village you go to, what services you require. So on that basis, the fee structure will change. And so there is a calculator on Fair Trading website. So you can do the calculation accordingly.
Okay, and I'll just let our participants know that I will include any links to those websites, the Office of Fair Trading for the Retirement Villages Calculator. And if I can find one for Services Australia, I'll include that link as well for the aged care calculation in the email that people will receive after today's webinar.
I'll talk to my financial advocates, and if I get the links, I'll send it to you.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. I wasn't aware that Seniors' Rights had financial advocates, so that's a wonderful service for people.
Yeah.
And I'll also include a link to Care Finder. Is that a separate that's a separate program?
It is a separate program, so that's basically assisting people to go through registering with My Aged Care to navigate through the whole My Aged Care system. So it's called Care Finder now, but it used to call Navigator program. So it's basically navigating through My Aged Care.
Well, given the numbers that you said, 66,000 people living in retirement villages across New South Wales, that's a lot of people that may have questions and not completely understand the circumstances in which they find themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that number is increasing because there aren't new retirement villages coming up all the time. And also, Office of Fair Trading has a register of all the accommodation options, like retirement villages or other accommodation options. So there is a register of accommodations in New South Wales. But this is, again, it's not, if a facility is not there, doesn't mean they're not the actual retirement village or other accommodation option. But this is actually evolving all the time. but there is a register there, so you can actually check. It is a requirement under the legislation to register with fair trading.
Okay, and just to say to our participants, if you have any further questions, we've still got a little bit of time, so there is time for us to answer. But we have one final poll, which I'll launch now. Can you see that on screen?
That's the result I can see.
Okay. All right. Now I'll launch the next one. Okay, so we just wanted to gauge from people whether they felt that they learnt more about retirement villages and aged care through the webinar. And if you would like to receive more information, it would be helpful for you to perhaps leave your name in the Q&A so that we know to whom we need to refer to Seniors' Rights to get some more information.
Well, we will be able to provide individual information sessions if you request us to do so, whether it is a workplace or whether it is in the community groups, retirement villages, or aged care facilities. So you just make that request. Please feel free to contact us, so we will be able to organize that.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm based in Lismore, and I know that a group of seniors we've organised for an aged care advocate to come and give a talk during the Seniors Festival, which is coming up this month. And I'm also giving a talk about end-of-life planning at the Gunnellabar Library, and I'm sure that that's happening right across the state, that I'm sure Seniors' Rights would be doing lots of work during the Seniors Festival. It looks like 76% felt they learned more about retirement villages, 75% about aged care, and it looks like a lot of people would like to receive more information. I will also share the contact details for Seniors' Rights in the email that people will receive after the webinar today. And then I guess maybe that might be the more efficient way that people can then make contact to receive some more information or to make an inquiry about having someone come and give a talk to their group or their particular community. So obviously Seniors' Rights serves a very good purpose because lots of people are wanting to receive further information. And I'll just let people know, Nalika mentioned that they have a strata service, and last year a solicitor from Seniors' Rights ran a webinar in our Law for Community Worker program about strata laws, and you can find the recording of that webinar on the Legal Aid YouTube channel. So I'll provide a link to that in the email that people attending today will receive, so that if strata is something that you wanted to find out information about, you can watch that webinar from last year. And of course, today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a link to the recording from today's webinar in your email as well, so that you can have another listen or share it with somebody who might not have been able to attend. So it looks like we don't have any further questions. One last thing I'll mention is that Legal Aid does have a specialist elder abuse service. So if you're living on the Central Coast or Lower Hunter area, you can also, and you or somebody that you're working with might be experiencing elder abuse, you can, if you're in that geographical area, you can seek help from that service. So I'll provide a link to that information in the email as well. So if there's no more questions, we might end the webinar now. We're about 5 or 6 minutes ahead of time. So Nalika, I'd just like to thank you for all the information that you've shared and to thank our participants for attending the webinar today. And if you would like to find out about other legal aid webinars, you can register to receive our electronic alerts on our website. If you look under how to get help, ways to get help, community legal education, there'll be a link there so that you can register if you don't already receive the electronic alert. So thanks everybody, and thank you, Nalika. I'll end the webinar now. Bye everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.